Hello everybody and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to make another fun snack together. And I know it looks like there's a lot of ingredients here, but don't be overwhelmed. They are all really great and tasty, super easy to find and to use, and you can switch a lot of them out. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on a dish that's going to give us a lot of energy. This is something that you can use for a snack, you can have them for breakfast, and you can take them with you if you're going to be going on a hike or some kind of long walk or something like that. So we're going to jump right in because I want to go through all of these ingredients with you. We call these Un-Bee-Lievable energy seed balls, and you'll see why in just a second. So we're going to get started with kind of the stars of the show, and that is our seeds. Seeds are very, very delicious and very good for you. They are the part of the plant that can then grow another plant. We can't really eat all seeds, or some of them we can, but there's no reason to because they don't really do anything for our nutrition or they don't taste very good. But there are a lot that we can and should eat. So we're going to go through the three that we're going to use today. So first off is our pumpkin seeds. These are the seeds that pumpkins come from. They're incredibly delicious. They need to be dried out and usually roasted after they're taken out of the pumpkin. We're also going to use some sunflower seeds today. Hopefully a lot of you have had these before. A lot of times they come with the shell on them and you kind of crack the shell off and eat what's inside. But we're going to use ones that are already out of the shell, and these do come from a sunflower. A lot of times you can see as a sunflower is starting to reach the end of its life, when it's starting to die, you can see a lot of those seeds start to pop out of the middle of the sunflower, and they can be picked and again roasted and eaten. We're also going to use one that's kind of fun, and you may not have heard of it before, but it is called flax seed. It comes from the flax plant. Flax is used for a lot of different things. They can actually use flax to make clothing and things like that. And this is the seed from the flax plant. And you can, I don't know if you can tell, but when we go to scoop it out, you're going to see that this is a powdery substance, and I'll explain why in just a second. Now, the reason that we eat seeds, again, is because they're very good for us. They have a lot of protein in them. Remember, protein is the building blocks of the body. Every part of your body that's going to grow or change needs protein. They also have a lot of healthy fats in them as well. We need those healthy fats both for energy, for our heart, for our brain, and so we can get a lot of them from our seeds. And they also have a lot of fiber in them, and if you've seen my other videos or been in my class before, you know that I'm very big on fiber. It's incredibly good for your gut, for your stomach, and helps you to have healthy poops. You gotta have those healthy poops or else your whole body's not healthy. So that is what we can get from our seeds, is that protein, healthy fats, those fibers. There's also a lot of good vitamins and minerals in them as well. Now, the pumpkin and the sunflower seeds we're going to just kind of have on their own. We're going to put those right in our recipe in a minute. When it comes to flaxseed, it's a little bit different. So you can buy flax seeds either as whole seeds or as ground up kind of powder. And flax seeds have a very hard shell on the outside, and because they're so tiny, it's not like we can kind of crack the shell off like we would with sunflower seeds. What we need to do in order for our stomachs to absorb all the goodness coming from the flax seed, it needs to be ground up first. So it needs to be kind of mushed until it becomes a powder. And you can do that yourself if you want. You can use a coffee grinder or something, a mortar and pestle or something like that, or a blender. But you can also buy it already ground up so you don't have to worry about that. And the cool thing about flax is if it sits in water for a little bit, it can get kind of a jelly substance, and you can actually use it as a substitute for eggs when you're baking things if you're allergic to eggs. So that's a fun fact about flax. So that's going to be the seeds that we're going to use in our energy balls today. The reason we call them Un-Bee-Lievable seed balls is because we also have an important ingredient that comes from bees. We're going to use honey as our sweetener of choice today because we do want it to have a little bit of sweetness. But remember, we don't like to use a lot of processed sugar, a lot of that white cane sugar. It just treats our body differently. We don't want a lot of it. It's not good for us. And while honey is still sugar, it is better for us. It's a natural sugar. Our body reacts to it differently than it does that processed cane sugar. And it also has some health properties of its own. The reason that we have honey in the first place is because bees use it to store food for the winter. So they forage, they go around and they go to all the different flowers and everything during the spring and the summer, and then they create the honey that we use. And it tastes different depending on what flowers they've been foraging with, so that's kind of cool. And this honey looks like it came from cranberry blossoms, which is lovely, because we're also going to talk about cranberries. So some cool things about honey: it's very soothing for the throat. It actually can coat your throat, so if you have a cough or a sore throat, it's very good to help with that. It can actually be better than cough medicine at helping you to do that. It also has what we call antimicrobial properties. It's almost like it kills germs. So in the past, before they had things like Neosporin and things to put on cuts, they would put honey on the cuts, and that would help them to heal faster. So honey is really, really cool, and bees are really cool, and it's going to give us that natural sugar in it. It's going to give us the energy that we need to keep moving throughout the day, go on our hikes, do our sports, all that good stuff. So we're going to be using our honey as well. Now, moving on, in New Jersey, we are good at growing a lot of things. We're called the Garden State for a reason. So even though you see a lot of big cities here with smokestacks and buildings and things like that, a lot of New Jersey is green and beautiful and grows lovely crops. We're very good at growing tomatoes, corn, soybeans, a lot of grapes in South New Jersey. We are also good at growing cranberries and blueberries. Both are very, very good for you. They have a lot of what we call antioxidants in them. And what that does is that helps your body to fight diseases. So it's very, very important for us. So we're going to use the dried versions of these berries today because if we put in the whole versions, it would get really wet and sloppy and we wouldn't be able to store them. So we're going to use the dried versions. Just a word about these: if you buy them, you usually want to try, if you can, to find some that don't have a lot of sugar added to them. They are sweet on their own. You know what fruits and berries are like. They already have their own natural sugar. We don't really need to add a lot to it, but usually when they put them in a package like this, they do add sugar as well. I will tell you, ones without sugar are a little bit hard to find. You would probably need to go to a Whole Foods or a health food store or something like that. If you can't, don't worry about it. It's just a little bit in our energy seed balls. I actually could not find any cranberries without added sugar, so here we go. But mostly I just wanted you to focus on the fact that these are incredibly good for us, and we can find them in abundance in New Jersey because they grow so well here. Okay. Moving on, we are going to use a nut or seed butter today that's going to help to hold our seed balls together. It's also going to give us a little bit more of the energy, protein, healthy fats that we need. I'm going to use peanut butter because it's my favorite, but if you are allergic to nuts, you can also tap into our seeds and use something called sunflower seed butter. You can find this in pretty much any grocery store. It's usually the same price as the peanut butter, but it is made with sunflower seeds, these guys, instead of nuts. So it has a little bit of a different flavor, but it's still a lovely flavor, and the consistency is almost the same. You could put it on sandwiches and things like that, but we would be using it in our seed balls. So some lovely healthy fats here and protein, and we are also going to be using some grains here. We're going to use some what you might call Rice Krispies. Okay, they're not actual Rice Krispies like you with the little guys on the front of it. We're going to use brown Rice Krispies. So brown rice is a little bit different from white rice. It hasn't been bleached or processed as much. It contains more of the whole grain that's really good for us. Again, good fiber, good for our stomachs, good for our energy. And these, again, are not too hard to find. You can usually find them in a grocery store or order them online. If all you can find is the regular white Krispies, that's fine. But I have my brown rice Krispies, so we're going to use those today. That's going to give us a wonderful texture. And we're also going to use some oats. We're going to use rolled oats, so not the quick cooking ones. These are going to add some, again, fiber. It's going to add some heart healthy vitamins and minerals for us, and super good. Okay, we don't have to cook these or anything. We're just going to stir them right in. And last but not least, besides our vanilla and our salt and our cinnamon, that's just for flavor, we're going to use some unsweetened coconut flakes. When you usually have these in desserts, a lot of times they have extra sugar in them. This isn't. It's just like somebody grated a coconut. And again, we're going to have healthy fats in here. We're going to have a lot of lovely coconut flavor, and it adds a little bit of nice texture as well. Sorry, it was upside down. So that is what we are going to use for our recipe today. It's, again, it seems like a lot, but you're going to see it's super easy to get it all out, measure it all out, and get it going. So let's get started putting together our energy seed balls. Alrighty, let's get started. So we're going to start with a lot of our dry ingredients first. So I'm going to use this big old mixing bowl for it. Both of my bowls are quite big because some of this takes up a lot of room, but I just want to make sure it's not going to spill everywhere, because you guys, if you've watched my videos, know how messy I am. So first off, we're going to start with our oats, okay? And I'm just going to open the bag, and we need a cup and a half of oats. So a full cup and then a half of a cup. So I'm just going to scoop that out right on top. I need half of a cup. Easy peasy. Look how beautiful these oats are. Ooh. So I will set that aside. Now I need 3/4 of a cup of my brown Rice Crisps. And this is also a delicious cereal. There's not a bunch of sugar added to this or anything like regular Rice Krispies. It's very good for us. So here I have 1/4 of a cup. We're going to do 3 of these because we want 3/4 of a cup. That's 1, 2. The measurement doesn't have to be perfect. There can be a little extra. That's fine. This is going to have such a great texture to it when you bite into it. It'll remind you a little bit of a Rice Krispies treat. It's super nice. Alrighty, then we are going to do 1/4 of a cup of our sunflower seeds. Okay, so I have my 1/4 of a cup right here. I'm going to pour them in. If I get a little out of the thing, that's fine. See, that's not a big deal. Okay. Pouring that right in. See how easy this is? It's a lot of ingredients, but all you're doing is measuring and pouring. Okay. Now we are going to move on to our pumpkin seeds. We are also going to do 1/4 of a cup of our pumpkin seeds. They're very cool and kind of green, but they taste really nice. A lot of times you can roast these yourself with other kinds of different spices and things like that. Oh, wonderful snack. Okay, and also for our seeds, we're going to do 1/4 of a cup of these as well. Now, I didn't mention this before. See how it's a powder? Hold on, I did mention that. Okay. 1/4 of a cup. I didn't mention it before, but this is one of those recipes that you can add and subtract things if you can't have things, if you don't have them in your house, or if there's just some things you'd like to add, you're welcome to do so. I have some almonds here, some slivered almonds. I'm going to add about 1/4 a cup of those too. Why not? Okay, you don't need to do it. You might be allergic to nuts. Don't do it. Just put them in there. Why not? Nothing's stopping us. Okay, so those are our seeds and our nuts. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that up. Now what I'm going to do is add our fruits. Okay, and we want 1/3 of a cup of our fruits. I have my 1/3 of a cup right here. Scoop out some blueberries. Now we want 1/3 of a cup all together. So I'm going to fill about 1/2 of that with my blueberries. and then another half with my cranberries. Use this spoon. And again, you can add a few more if you want to. That's totally fine. Nothing's stopping you. This is about 1/3 of a cup. This has blueberries and cranberries in it. Okay, we'll get those in there. Maybe I'm going to throw in the ones that fell on the table, because why not? Okay. We are going to do 1/4 of a cup of our coconut flakes. And again, some people don't like coconut, some people are allergic to it. This is something you can absolutely leave out. I like it because it, again, it adds some more healthy fats, but it's also going to give you a nice little flavor and some nice texture as well. So we'll do 1/4 of a cup. All right, still making a mess. That's okay. Almost looks like grated cheese a little bit. Ooh, like snow. All right. Then we're just going to do our spices. So we're going to have some cinnamon. And the recipe I am giving you calls for 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. But again, if you like cinnamon, you are welcome to put in more. You can put in a whole teaspoon if you like. I usually put in kind of a rounded scoop. So a little bit more than 1/2 teaspoon. If there's other spices you like nutmeg or ginger, things like that, you're welcome to put those in. If you want to put in a little kick, you could add some cayenne pepper. Crazy town. All right, then we're just going to stir that up. This is our our dry ingredients, and it's so beautiful. It's already starting to look like granola almost. Okay, so I'm just going to put that to the side right now, and we're going to go in with our wet ingredients. And I'm going to do this in a pot because this is going to go on the stove. We're going to need to heat up our wet ingredients once we have them all together. It's a giant pot. I don't know if you need one quite this big, but I only have this and another one that's super giant. So starting with our wet ingredients, we're going to start with oil. This is not something I talked about when we were going through ingredients either. You can use any oil that has kind of a neutral flavor. So that would be something like olive oil, avocado oil. You can also use coconut oil. And the reason I'm going to use coconut oil is because when it gets cold, it gets kind of solid. And that's going to hold our seed balls together a lot better than other oils would. And this is completely melted because it is so hot today. 90-something degrees today, but a lot of times you'll see when it's colder, this is all white. You can't see through it because it's gotten solid. So we are going to put a teaspoon, that's what I have right here, of my coconut oil into our pot. It looks just like water when it's melted. It's kind of cool. Okay. And then oh, I forgot our salt. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, we need 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt to go in with our dry ingredients. So I'll just put that in there and that'll get all stirred up. Okay. Sorry about that, I just noticed it out of the corner of my eye. I'm following my recipe, but I didn't see it. It's another good reason to have everything you're going to need out in front of you, so you see that what you're using as you're going, but you're also can put it aside when you're finished, so you forget if you've used something or not. It's not a problem because it'll be out of sight. Okay. So now that we have done our oil, I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of honey. Now this is really fun. This is only kids that do this tell me it's really satisfying to squish out a ton of honey. So it's going to be 1/2 cup. And that seems like a lot of honey, but this also makes about 30 seed balls. So you're not going to have a lot in each one. Okay, I'm just going to have to let it go a minute, squeeze it again. This is really fun to do. So you're just going to squeeze it till you get to the very top of the 1/2 cup. And again, this is going to be very satisfying. I'm just going to dump it in. Again, there's different types of honey depending on what the bee has been foraging at, what different flowers. So get a honey that you like the best. Clover honey, wildflower honey, lots of different kinds. Okay, so I'm going to put that over here, and we're going to go on with our peanut butter or our sunflower seed butter next. Okay, thankfully this is kind of nice and melty too, so it's going to be really easy to get out of here. So So we're going to use 1/4 of a cup of peanut butter. Okay, so you scoop it out, put it in until you get up to the top. Okay, so we're using 1/4 of a cup. 1/4 and 1/4 are the same thing, my friends, if you're getting confused, I'm sorry. Okay, so we'll put that in our pot as well. Okay, right now it doesn't look like much in there, but at the end, all of this is going to get mixed up together. It's going to be really cool. Alrighty, and the last thing that we're going to put in here is going to be a teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla just adds a really nice flavor. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can use other extracts like almond or something like that, but it gives it a nice vanilla flavor. It smells so good. Don't drink it though. It doesn't taste good when you just straight up drink it. I'm telling you from experience when I was a kid. Alrighty. Alright, so I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this. It's kind of a mess right now. All it is oil, peanut butter, and honey. So our next step is going to be to put this on the stove, get it nice and hot until it simmers and starts to get thick. When that's done, we're going to pour in all of those dry ingredients, mix it together, and make some seed balls. So let's go over to the stove. All right, friends, here we are at the stove. Since it is so hot in here today, a very hot summer day, everything already started melting and incorporating. If it were colder and if the ingredients were colder, this might take an extra couple of minutes to start to kind of melt and spread out, but it absolutely will. I've turned on the heat to about a medium heat, okay? And I'm just going to start to stir everything together. You can see my peanut butter, you can see the lovely golden color of the honey. The coconut oil is in there, but it is clear. And usually can't see the vanilla too well either. So you can see it's not a crazy big mixture, but we want it to start to blend together. And then what we want to happen is we want to simmer it for a couple of minutes. And what that means is not a boil. When you boil, things get real bubbly and crazy. When you simmer, it's just a bunch of little bubbles, and you'll see any second now it's going to start to do that. And we're going to let it do that for a few minutes because we want this mixture to get a little bit thicker, and that will happen if we are simmering. So it's going to get a little bit thicker, and then we're going to pour all of our dry ingredients and mix them completely. Now this almost doesn't even look like enough wet ingredients to cover all of this goodness, but it's going to be. Just balancing there. All right, so now this just takes a tiny bit of patience, but it really doesn't take very long, and you can see it's starting to simmer in the corners. So I'm going to keep stirring because, again, I don't really want it to boil, and I want to distribute that heat over the entire thing. Okay. Usually anytime you simmer a liquid, it's called a reduction, because usually some of the water boils away, some of the liquid, but what it does is it gets thicker, and that's what we want, almost like a syrup. And do you see how I can kind of cut through this with my spatula? You'll start to see it get a little bit thicker when it takes longer for it to come back together. It's a good trick to see if it's getting thick. And it's already kind of doing it. I cannot tell you how good this smells. The peanut butter and the vanilla and that little touch of honey. It smells sweet and delicious. Okay, now we've been simmering for about 4 or 5 minutes. You can see it's taking a lot longer for it to come together. When I rake through it, that means it's getting nice and thick and syrupy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the heat off. We don't need it anymore. This is going to kind of bubble down a little bit. That's okay. And now comes the really fun part. I'm going to take our dry mixture and just dump the whole shebang. Okay. And now we're going to stir until that nice wet stuff is covering all of the dry stuff. And it takes a second. Again, at first it's going to look like it's not going to cover everything, but it will. See how it's starting to get kind of a sticky mixture. Again, it almost looks like granola, like you would buy in a store. But it's going to be our energy seed balls. Again, it smells really nice. It smells like vanilla and honey and cranberries and peanut butter and coconut. See how it's all nicely covered. You can't even see that there was anything even in the bottom of the pot because we covered all the dry ingredients with it. Alrighty, that's nice and mixed up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this cool off for a few minutes, and the reason I want to do that is because we are going to roll this into balls, and we want it to be really nice and sticky. Right now, because it's very hot, everything's kind of melty and a little bit more liquidy. So once it cools off a little bit, it'll start to set and it'll hold together better. So we're going to go ahead and give this a few minutes to rest, and then we will come back to roll them into balls. Okay friends, we are back at the table. I have let our mixture cool off for a little bit. Honestly, the longer you let it cool off, the easier it's going to be to handle. I'm a little impatient, mine's still a little warm, but we'll see how we do. Can always roll it better later. So again, once this mixture starts to cool, it gets a lot stickier, but not so much sticky to your hands if you're going to eat them, but it helps all the ingredients to stick together really well. So what you're going to want to do is take about a tablespoon, rounder ones are better, this is what I have, it's whatever. And you're going to scoop up about, it doesn't have to be perfect, but about a tablespoon of the mixture. So I'm going to do that. And you're going to put it in your hands, okay, and you're just going to kind of smoosh it into a ball. Some pieces may fall out, that's okay. And once you have kind of a little ball shape, you can put it, you can go in a cookie sheet, you can go in a glass container, anything like that. I'm putting it in a glass container because this is how I'm going to store it. But once again, we're just going to keep doing this until you have used all of the mixture. This can also be kind of pressed into the bottom of a baking dish to make bars as well, but we found that the balls do tend to stay together better when you're kind of traveling with them. So you're just going to keep doing that. It's going to make about 30 energy balls, so there's going to be plenty. I do suggest that you store them in the refrigerator because that is going to help them to stay fresh longer. It's also going to help them to hold their shape. You can keep these for about a week. But if you're going to be taking them somewhere, if you're going to take them to school or on a hike or anything like that, they're going to be fine in a little baggie or in a smaller container, anything like that. And the serving size is about 3 balls, so you know how much you want to eat. But the importance of these is that they are easy, they're quick, you can make them once a week if you wanted to, and you can add and subtract ingredients depending on what it is that you like. If you are allergic to honey, that's something I forgot to tell you before, you can substitute it for either brown rice syrup or maple syrup, okay? And so that should work just as well, and again, you can kind of switch out the seeds and the fruits and things like that. But I really wanted to focus on those cranberries and blueberries today, specifically because they do grow here in New Jersey. It's important to remember what our great state kind of provides for us, and that this is a place where things grow really well. It's why we have so many farms and farmers markets, and I highly suggest that you visit these farms. For one, to see how it works, but also to be able to get fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh cranberries and blueberries. They're going to be tastier and more in season than the things that we would get in the grocery store because those have to travel a long way. And they are probably also going to be less expensive than what you would get in the grocery store as well. And you're going to find a lot of things there. You can actually also find local honey in New Jersey as well. We do have what we call apiaries. It's a really fun word. I know it sounds like a place where there should be monkeys, but an apiary is actually where bees are kept. It's kind of like a bee farm, a beehive. And there are a lot of those in New Jersey as well. Some of those people sell their honey to farms, so sometimes you can find local honey at farms as well. And local honey is often good for allergies. If you have allergies from the things that surround you in your environment, the honey from your environment can also help to alleviate those allergies. So Give it up for New Jersey. It is a wonderful state. We grow some wonderful things here, and I highly suggest that you start incorporating those into the things that you make. And I hope that while you're viewing this beautiful state of ours, that you will also take a look and start to eat the things that we grow here. And I hope you enjoyed this recipe. The link to the our other videos and also to this recipe are going to be in the description, and so you can follow along whenever you would like to. And I hope you all stay safe and have a wonderful rest of your day. Chef's kiss.